Hi, welcome to Ask the Manager. This is the best set we've ever been on. We're on Lake Quinsigamond, and we have our special boat captain, Michael Liberty from Precinct 2. He's a town meeting member. And we have Peter Collins, who is Precinct 4. I said Precinct 2. You told me that first. Precinct 3, and Peter is Precinct 4. And now, Peter is chair of the Lake Quinsigamond Commission, and Michael is chair of the, whatever it's called, of the representative of the Watershed Association. And what I'd like to start with is, what's the difference between the commission and the watershed?
What's the distinction?
Yes.
Okay, so the watershed is a great group of, it's basically made up of the abutters of Lake Quinsigamond. So all the folks that are around Lake Quinsigamond, they get together as a group and they form a watershed association. So basically, it's not really a political organization as much as it's a kind of let's get things done organization. So they look at water quality. They build little parks and the sways and it's a really nice outfit to go with. But they're basically made up of abutters, and it's a volunteer thing. Lake Quinsigamond Commission is a little bit different. Back in 1916, when the Lake Quinsigamond Commission was formed, you got to kind of go back then. Motorboats were just kind of coming around. There was no rules. There was no rules. No one knew what to do. People were literally dying on Lake Quinsigamond. It was like the Wild West. So they got together, the three communities, because Lake Quinsigamond has a distinction of being in three communities. It's in Shrewsbury, it's in Worcester, and it's in Grafton. So they got together and they said, we're going to form this commission of people from each of the communities so we can govern and better manage the lake. In the beginning, it was really a safety thing, and then over time, it kind of morphed in. So the Quinsigamond Commission is basically written into the legislation, the same Chapter 91 legislation as DEP, for example, or the DCR. So we're actually have statutory authority. We can make rules and enforce them. We manage the dock placements and things like that.
And how are you appointed?
So we're appointed. There's 9 members, and that's changed over the years. But today there's 9 members. There's 3 members from Shrewsbury. One is appointed by the I believe it's the town manager, and that's correct?
Yes.
One is a representative from the Conservation Commission, and that's true with all of the communities. Grafton has a Concom member, Worcester has a Conservation member, Worcester and Shrewsbury, the Worcester rep is appointed by the city manager, and then there's a police officer. The chief is actually the ex officiato of the group, but he usually sends someone in his place. Wayne Sampson was the last chief who actually served, and Wayne was the chairman for a while. So Wayne participated directly. So Shrewsbury, you have Officer Sean Verlier, great guy, and we have Captain Roger Steele
from Worcester
as our Worcester representative. So that's good. And, Roger's is a captain, so that's always nice to have that kind of level of support in there.
But you have 2 vacancies.
We have 2 vacancies. We have one
from Worcester and one from Grafton.
Yeah.
Why aren't they filled?
It takes time. Worcester's having problems filling all of their vacancies in their committees, and Grafton was kind of the same way. The original rule was written that they had to be in a butter, and then we kind of changed that around so it could have someone who has an interest in Lake Quinsigamond, and Worcester had that last time, and unfortunately for us, the Worcester rep moved to Shrewsbury.
Oh.
So we gained a great citizen in our town,
yeah.
But we lost a rep on the board. And I went back and said, hey, we can keep him on here as far as I'm concerned until we get another rep from Worcester. And we may have one this month.
The town manager, Kevin Mizikar, and I are sitting on the side of the boat where we can see the Shrewsbury shoreline. And we're getting to see all those beautiful houses that we drive by and wonder what's on the other side. We're getting to see it now. It's pretty good.
It is. You get the better view than me.
Yes.
I mean, you're...
No offense to Worcester.
And no offense to you two.
I was going to say, yeah.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
But from a landscape view, you got the better view.
Okay, so how often do you meet?
We meet once a month, the last Wednesday of every month, February through November, unless we have a special meeting for some reason.
Always at Town Hall?
Always at Town Hall, not always in the same room. If we can get the new selectmen's room, because that has the better tech in it, and we can broadcast live, we'll do that. If there's no conflict with meetings, usually we meet on the same night as the school committee, so obviously they take precedence over us. If not, we'll meet in the small room. I think one time we had to meet in the smaller room. I forgot what was going on, but usually we we'll fit.
Okay, now, Kevin, I understand from when we interviewed you for your position that you told us you like to fish. Have you been on Lake Quinsigamond fishing?
I have not, no.
And you didn't bring your pole?
I didn't. No,
Oh.
I didn't think it'd be appropriate.
Oh, well.
Ask the manager.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of questions at the Lake Quinsigamond Commission meeting recently with people living on extensions of Lake Quinsigamond, I'd say, even though it's you can't visually see it. For example, the people from Newton Pond up off of Sewell Street, they had a lot of concerns and came to the Lake Quinsigamond Commission asking to have representation on the board. Help me, help me, help me. What can we do? We have issues that you have. My first question is, why would Newton Pond not be considered part of the Lake Quinsigamond Commission when Flynn Pond is?
Right. So I think
That's a trick question.
I think we're working on that. I know Peter and I have had several conversations over the last maybe 6 weeks or so. Representative Kane and Selectman DePaula and I met with about 20 residents from Newton Pond to get a better understanding. They're having some invasive plants growing in there, and it's really choking out Newton Pond. The town of Shrewsbury owns all the land under Newton Pond, or owns Newton Pond, including the aspects that are in the border of the town of Boylston. It's controlled by the Shrewsbury Conservation Commission, so we are trying to find the best approach, and I think it is attaching them with the Lake Quinsigamond Association and trying to be more cohesive and complementary in the permitting and the whole waterway and the whole water system. Why, I don't know. Peter may have a better answer than that, but I mean, certainly more clear physical connection to Flint Pond and the water bodies to the south than there is at the northern end of the pond, or northern end of the lake.
And so that brings me to the question of weeds. Weeds in the lake, weeds in Newton Pond. What can be done with that? Because before they used to just douse the lakes with chemicals that you can't use today, and we've learned shouldn't have used them then. So what can be done about all those weeds? I have to say, my mother-in-law's lived on Newton Pond since the 60s, when we were in high school. And we used to water ski there, and so the weeds were sort of contained, and there's less boat traffic on that pond since we grew up. But what can be done?
Well, what we're doing for weed management, in this, probably about 3 or 4 years ago, we revamped our lake management plan. The original plan that we had a drawdown, which means we kind of let the water out down to 30 inches. It doesn't go down very far, but it's enough to kind of freeze the sides of it, and that kills some of the weeds that we have growing in the winter. And then we do a chemical treatment, but it's very controlled, and we have to go through permits through the 3 conservation commissions of Shrewsbury, Grafton, and Worcester. If we take on Newton Pond, Boylston will be added onto that list as well. And so we do those kind of treatments, and we try to control it. In the beginning, we had a permit for one kind of chemical called diquat, because most of our invasive species was milfoil. So we did a good job eradicating the milfoil, and then in its place, this plant called fanwood popped up, and the chemical we used for milfoil did nothing to fanwood. But we can't just dump another chemical in there, you have to have a permit. So we went back and we revamped it, and this new management plan has about, I'm going to say, 8 or 9 different types of treatments or strategies we can use to go and treat these things. So if something pops up that we don't have on there now, or the way we're treating it with chemicals, because we can do harvesting, we can do hand picking, we can do another drawdown. So we have a bunch of weapons in the quiver now that we can use to combat this stuff. And those would basically be added on with Newton Pond. Because Newton Pond, what I saw, we went over there and I identified milfoil and fanwort are both in that pond. That's all I saw in there. That doesn't mean something else isn't in there. And one of the things to do, the first steps of integrating Newton Pond is to find out what we have for a problem over there and what kind of a threat it's going to be.
Well, Newton Pond was spring fed, and so it's a beautiful pond.
Oh yeah.
And I think a while back someone successfully stopped having, what do you call it, jet skis
Yep.
on the pond, which was actually kind of nice because, as you know, living on the lake, it can be quite an annoyance.
That's an issue, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, as Peter mentioned, you know, when we go through this process to treat the invasive species, you know, there's not only is, you know, so Shrewsbury Conservation Commission is involved and provides permitting and, but, you know, we've dealt with everyone from the Army Corps and DCR and everyone else with, you know, the types of species and the types of plants that should be grown on the bottom of the lake. So it's a very detailed process, and we have to go through that process every year and every time you want to treat. And, you know, folks will recall at town meeting every year, the town, for the past 3 years now,
Yes.
the town has been supporting funding the Lake Quinsigamond Association because this is an asset of all the towns in the area, and I think Shrewsbury recognizes that clearly, and we've done everything that we can to fund this because it's a draw. It has, you know, wonderful properties. It's a wonderful place to live, and there's a lot of events that people come to the region just because of the lake, and we need to preserve that, and that's why the town has a role in it.
I have to just interrupt. I'm just realizing that's Lakeside Path over there.
That's right.
And that's the first, no it isn't, it's the second house I lived in. I grew up on Lakeside Path. Up when there was a flood, before they had all the flood control put in, I grew up on Lakeside Path, and I'm lucky I didn't drown because living on the lake, it's a dangerous thing for a little kid. But I didn't even think of it. My head's spinning looking at all the pretty houses, and I went, oh, I think we're near Lakeside Path.
Has it changed much over there? Or?
Oh, it's very different, I think. The house I lived in my memory, was like a mansion. And I don't know if it's a little house or what, but it was like a mansion. But we moved from there soon after my father died. But when there was a flood, it was amazing. You could walk through the water and see all the little fish around your feet, and nobody cared that the fish were near your feet. Nowadays, people all freak out. We don't have to worry about sharks in Lake Quinsigamond, but yet, right.
That'd be another invasive species.
Anyways,
that showed up here.
I lost track of what we were talking about because all of a sudden I saw that area. So let me go back to what can you do about pest control? I mean, people complain about the Canadian geese and how dirty the water looks, and because I've talked to some people that live on the lake, and they tell me that they really get upset when they get up in the morning and they see all the Canadian geese, the overpopulation and all what they leave behind.
At first when you said that, I thought you were talking about jet skiers.
Oh no, I didn't get that far yet.
But the Canadian geese are an interesting thing. Canadian geese are protected, so you can't really just go around. I think there is a limit, right? You can bag them seasonally, but for the most part, you can't mess around with them. And they really have a good population, a good healthy population on Lake Quinsigamond.
Yeah.
They are messy. So that's really what people complain about the most. I mean, and they're kind of aggressive and angry. I've had them charge my boat.
Really?
You don't want to mess around with them. I had them charge me at an island one time and actually take flight and right like eye level, and so and they were nesting there, and so he was protecting the nest. But they're a little scary, and when they're standing there, they're the height of a little kid. So,
Really?
But we have two things that help keep the geese at bay. Actually, one's the swans, because no one messes with the swans, especially geese, and the other one is the eagles. So the problem with the geese
we have eagles here,
yeah,
right?
we have eagles. Yeah, so the geese have no natural predators on Lake Quinsigamond besides humans, which we can't put them under. It's nice and shady under here.
We're getting a view of the bridge, and it's really amazing to see. all of the work that was done and how it really was with, I think, minimal interruption for the project that it was. And it's just amazing to look at all the work and all the effort. I know I'm getting distracted, but everything I see.
You talk about the condition of the water, and several weeks ago, Peter and Mike and I took a very important review of the lake to check on stormwater inlets into it. And it was eye-opening for me because you know, the town of Shrewsbury has implemented a stormwater fee, and one of the reasons that we're doing that is to be able to make sure that, you know, if our permit requires us in the future, we're able to treat stormwater runoff from great big plazas like White City, etc., before it dumps into the lake, so we can continue to preserve the waters. Because many people see the drains, you know, in the parking lots or, you know, in other aspects of the town. A lot of it makes it into Lake Quinsigamond, and, you know, that's picking up the oils, that's picking up, you know, other chemicals, it's picking up things off of folks' lawns. And if it's making it into a drain, a lot of drains in Shrewsbury ultimately dump into here, because why not, right? That was the plan for decades. So, you know, Peter will know the number probably off the top of his head, but there's hundreds of inlets into Lake Quinsigamond that, you know, run off from both, you know, Worcester and Grafton and Shrewsbury just directly into the lake. And that's the whole initiative behind stormwater, is for us to understand how many of those there are, what's coming into the lake, and do we need to provide some kind of mechanical or other treatment before it makes it in here, so we can, again, preserve this asset. So,
Boy, that'll be a big project.
it's a huge project. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's why,
Worthwhile.
you know, it's a $2 million a year initiative for us. That's why we're you know, part of the reason that, you know, we're raising the funds, but it's going into, you know, streams and other, you know, aspects and other water bodies in the community as well, not just Lake Quinsigamond. But
So if you look at the Lake Bridge and the runoff from Belmont Street to Lake Bridge, that's a state road. And if we're charging people for impervious surfaces in our town, including the town of Shrewsbury, do we charge the state?
we do not charge the sovereign Commonwealth any money for stormwater. We do work with them, though. We have to identify every connection where our stormwater system interconnects with theirs, and where they're ultimately charged with documenting where their outlets from their stormwater system enter other water bodies or otherwise go. So it is a comprehensive system. It is governed by the federal government, who makes sure that all state and municipal entities are in compliance with the permits that they issue. So again, it's comprehensive from that standpoint as well, that all actors are a part of it.
So I stray once again. We're going by White City Shopping Center, and I think back to when White City was an amusement park, and there was the ride that went over the lake, which I was always too young to go on. But it seems a shame. It's like wasted shoreline, where White City doesn't take advantage of the beautiful shoreline and use it as a wonderful view. I just thought I'd add that.
Yeah.
Mr. Collins shares your...
You agree?
Kevin's like smiling over there 'cause he doesn't want to see me go off on it. But yeah, I totally agree. It's a shame. And the original developer of White City Shopping Plaza, as we know it, in the 60s, when he bought it and developed it, he put the butt end of the project on this side of it. So all the services are over here, like the dumpsters and delivery doors and all that.
What a waste.
And it makes sense, I guess, if you're building a project that's anywhere that isn't, 1,500 feet of waterfront. But it really is a shame, because, just imagine if they had restaurants that could come out and look over there, like Osaka, and I don't want to make any advertisements, but all the restaurants in White City that could go out there and basically enjoy that, and the people could access it. And the cool thing, even in the old days with the Lake Quinsigamond Bridge, that was really a park in and of itself. It had access down to the water for pedestrians. You could get out onto Ram's Horn Island. So when the lake was really active, when that bridge was built, this was a destination point, and people would come down here. It wasn't, there was no major highways. People weren't zipping down to the Cape for the weekend. They were coming to Lake Quinsigamond and hanging out here. And Lincoln Park was over there, and White City was across, and they had a railway that came down and dropped people off, and thousands of people would visit it every week, and sometimes when the park was open, every day. So, it's a shame to see all that kind of go away. And we had the discussion when they put in the new bridge, and they did a great job. It's a fabulous structure. They did a lot of good things for the lake. Where 290 and Route 20 both literally have pipes that drain in. Kevin was kind of shocked when we showed him under 20. He said, "See that pipe?" Goes, yeah, that's where your runoff comes out. These guys, and the old bridge actually went down in the middle. That was a mitigation to bring all this stuff down from either side, because it's the lowest point, and they drained it in there. Now we have retention pools and vortex separators and all this high-tech stuff to kind of mitigate that. Doesn't keep everything out, but it's a lot better.
So as time goes by, clearly people have a understanding and respect for the waterway, and as they look to renovate the old bridges, then they'll have to make that a priority also. I
Yeah, they're
imagine.
gonna, and I think this, and kudos, because people don't like regulation, and because it does add cost to things, but there's sometimes it just makes sense. And in this particular case, I don't know what cost it added, the vortex separator, because this project came in under budget, so and ahead of schedule. So I don't know what pain that caused, but it was definitely a benefit for the lake. And they did some other stuff underneath the water too, because when they built the old bridge, there was a causeway that went across. That's how you got across Lake Quinsigamond. And when they put the bridge in 1905, or 1916 rather, they basically shaved down the causeway, dumped it right beside it. So if you go there with a depth finder, you can see the mound. And they built the old bridge on top of the causeway.
Wow.
And modern tech, you can't build a bridge on top of a earthen structure that man made, in the 1800s. So they had to dig down. That bridge, the pylons in the middle of the bridge go down 250 feet to bedrock.
Speaking of the bridge, do we have a problem with people jumping off the bridge like we used to?
Not that I'm aware of. But
We had in the past, and this is an anomaly because up until this point we had two jumpers. But I say two jumpers, two incidents where people were jumping off the bridge. One was during the day, one was at night. Very,
I don't know why my phone keeps doing that.
very uncool to do that at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But it hasn't been a real big, problem.
growing up, boys used to jump off the bridge like it was a thing to do.
Yeah, swimming.
And then, so it was hard for me to understand why people would want to jump off a bridge where boys used to do it just for the fun of it, the difference between it. I do know we also had that incident the terrible incident where, I don't even want to talk about it, but a child was involved with it.
Right.
But
someone threw her off the bridge.
and I also have to say, if you're at UMass and it's a terrible time to be there, you can turn and look at the lake and watch the bridge light up and watch the water, and it gives you a sense of calm. So when they did that, the patient rooms are facing the lake, and so there was good planning in that sense. So I think, when we got past the 70s, a lot of improvements happened around appreciating the lake and viewing it.
Oh yeah, and that bridge is a testament to that, because that bridge is absolutely gorgeous, and they put bump outs in, they put these information boards.
I know. I said I was going to read those. Have you ever read those?
I've walked
You
across
did.
them.
Yeah.
See, you're ahead of me.
Yeah. On my lake show, I'm fortunate to have on my show as a co-host is my partner in crime. One of my partners in crime is Mike Perner, and Mike Perner wrote all of those things on there, and he provided all the images on it, and they're very cool because they have one for like rowing, and they have one for the history of Lake Quinsigamond, and they have one, for the history of Worcester and Shrewsbury. So it's really a really nice thing. And then the sail on each side of the bridge. That was an idea from one of the residents that wanted to put some kind of structure up there to kind of identify it with Shrewsbury. Because the sailing club was right there, they decided to do sails. And the original design was like a solid metal structure. And the guy who ran Middlesex Company, or the project manager for Middlesex, he said, "Hey, what if we did this?" And they put the cables in. So the cables were less things to tag for graffiti, and they moved. So it looked more like a sail.
Oh,
And it was like less maintenance, and they were easier to light up, and it was brilliant.
yeah.
And so that's a really cool thing. So we were lucky.
Let's go back to water quality. How is the water quality in the lake? Even though we think it's dirty and we see geese remnants, etc., and weeds, how is the water quality?
I can tell you from a beach standpoint this summer, I don't know if we've had any days of closure, maybe 1 or 2.
1 or 2 at Regatta.
Yeah, but
way
I mean,
less than
so
last year.
from a bacterial standpoint, you know, we test it frequently, and we haven't had issues this summer. We had some last year. It was closed quite a bit, but you know, from that standpoint, from a public safety standpoint and water quality standpoint, it's a very clean body of water.
So
Yeah.
people need to know that, to appreciate it and say, we want to keep it clean. And what do we have to do with all the drainage, et cetera? So there'll be more discussion around that. And also,
It's really more man than nature that's been harmful to the lake.
Right.
in the as we ride through, there's less cottages and more homes.
Oh, yeah.
And when you have more homes, you have less cesspools, correct?
Yeah,
Because
well, I
they must
mean,
be required.
Yeah, we upgrade to sewer and make sure that, you know, that's all taken care of from bacterial and.
I
human
haven't
waste
seen a
standpoint.
cottage, my word. These are
Yeah.
mansions.
I guess it depends on your definition of a cottage.
That's true.
That's a summer home right there, actually.
No, sir. Oh, wow. Okay, so now let's talk about police patrol, because I know for quite a few years, Shrewsbury was patrolling alone without the help of Worcester and without even environmental police. And then the environmental police jumped in, and now Worcester's back in. And I think it was all budgetary issues going, I don't know. And I don't know if that's a good excuse or not, but not to get political.
Yeah.
But how is it going? Is there enough patrolling on the lake?
Well, no. To answer it bluntly, we have room for improvement there. Shrewsbury's still the lead agency out here. Puts in the most hours. We had a great conversation with the city of Worcester at the beginning of the season, and you know, they have provided some patrols, but we'll look to continue to build on that partnership. DCR, environmental police, you know, they provide support when they can, but Shrewsbury's still the lead agency, and you know, we have that commitment and have the resources to do that, and we'll continue to do that. But it's not enough, and you know, even the staffing on our own boat levels can be better. But
Well, how many boats do we have?
We have one boat.
One. I
Yeah,
know.
Yeah. I mean, it's from a patrol standpoint. And then we have rescue craft through the fire department, et cetera.
And that was donated, wasn't it?
The
The hovercraft?
The hovercraft was donated, and the latest little, they got this a great little inflatable boat
Yeah.
that was also donated.
Yeah.
I think by the same family. Donnie
Yeah.
was donated that.
Yeah, well, one of the things that, you know, Peter and Mike pointed out on that tour that we took is, you know, maneuverability in the lake and between the different bodies of water, and how we can improve patrols through different types of watercraft and stuff like that. So something we can focus on in the
Yep.
future.
You know, some equipment issues. I think it's a personnel issue. You know, from my perspective, this is beautiful out here right now. When we got people, you know, minding their own business, doing.
They were
stuff.
all at work.
Yeah, but imagine if you know, if you multiplied that by a factor of 50, and that's what the Sunday afternoons out here, and like, we have every type of watercraft on Lake Quinsigamond.
Is there a limit to the number of boats that can come on the lake?
No.
Or anything
no.
goes?
No,
At the boat ramp?
There's somewhat a limitation of parking, but
Right.
it doesn't prohibit.
Outside of the parking
Creativity.
issue, doesn't, you know, if you could get your boat in, you can come in.
Really?
Yeah, and that's kind of a mass rule, like state rule.
So I hear that there's some real reckless drivers on the lake, and they're causing, or can cause, if they keep it up, damage to people's wharfs, because they go so fast they lift the wharfs right out of the water.
That's actually a type of boat. There's a type of sport called wakeboarding.
What's a wakeboard?
A wakeboard is essentially a flat board about yay long, and you ride on top of it. But the fun of it is, the challenge of it is, you jump over these big waves and you do flips in the air. And it's a very exciting sport to watch. Worcester actually had what they called the Woo Town Wake Fest, and they had a big national competition there, which was great. Anyway, those boats make a big wake. Some of them 3.5, 4 feet tall. So when those waves hit a wall, like over there, you can see the damage on that wall actually, because that's breaking down. Although that said, that wall is over 100 years old. That's around Plum Island.
See, he wants me to look at the wall. We should have come down this lake, and I should have toured before we did this interview. Because he wants me to look at the wall, and all I can see is the Polito Ponderosa over here. That's just amazing. But anyways,
beautiful
okay,
site.
now I'll
That's
look
also,
at the wall.
That's also their wall. And,
So what am I looking at?
so see the stone wall there?
Yeah.
We can see the breaks, especially underneath the dock spots. Yeah, the dock spots underneath the wall right there, like right underneath that tree.
Yeah.
That's where the waves are eroding the wall and causing the walls to fail.
Really?
And that's happening all over. We just went by this cove over here, but there's another wall that's failing over there where the wall is bulging out. So that's a combination of poor construction and it's getting beat on from the lake. So those are issues. And I know in Lake Quinsigamond, they just formed a commission to study what they can do about, because they're also, anyone who has a boat like that in their water body is going to have those kind of issues. So we're trying to figure out what's the best thing to do. Because we don't want to, for me, you start banning this kind of sport or that kind of sport, it's a slippery slope, and sooner or later it's going to come down to the sport you like, and you're not going to want to ban it.
So if one of those boats that you were talking about came down the middle, they wouldn't cause quite as much wave damage, correct?
It would be dissipated, but still pretty strong. If you stand on, say, Karen and Steve's dock over there, and there's a little bit of space behind it, when that wave goes by, hits the wall behind it, and splashes the dock probably 10 feet out.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Well, I know that some of the residents are getting pretty angry. One man described it as someone on a speedboat, so I don't know if it's the same type of boat.
Yeah, that's the boats you're talking about.
Really?
They're called wakeboard boats. They're designed to have a big wake. That's what they do. They actually have technology on them. You can fill them up with water.
Are they
to make them
designed
heavier.
to pay for the damage to everyone's docks?
Well, that's a great point you brought up, because under the rule, under the Massachusetts law, this isn't a Lake Quinsigamond rule, under Massachusetts law, you're responsible for your wake. Any
Really?
boat. This boat, any boat, a jet ski, anything like that. So if a jet ski goes by and it sprays you and causes damage, they're responsible for that. If you go by in a wakeboard boat and your wake causes damage to a dock or a wall, you are responsible for it. The challenge is, how do you put teeth on that? So like anything else. So that's but there's a law.
Well, that's it. Now, how can you swim when there's so many boats?
If you're
swim.
asking me, like, would I let my family swim out here on a Sunday or Saturday? Absolutely no way.
Really?
But you're not supposed to be in Lake Quinsigamond, which is one of our rules, is you're not supposed to be more than 50 feet from shore. So you
And
should
so
be. And if you're in a motorboat, you're not supposed to be within 50 feet of shore, or actually within 150 feet.
So do people follow that?
Sometimes there's some people that swim across and do knucklehead stuff. You're gonna get that.
That was another thing. Kids used to swim across the lake, which is against your rules because I read your rule book.
Yeah.
Kids used to swim across the lake just to see if they could do it.
Yep, I did it.
Yeah,
Oh,
see?
yeah. Not bad.
And now you can't.
No.
I mean, now
I don't know if it
it's
was
out
a
of the
rule then,
question.
but when I did it,
Certainly
Yeah,
a
Of course
rule
it
now.
wasn't. I'm sure it wasn't.
I don't think it was. I don't break rules. So
You wouldn't break a rule.
I probably made that rule after we did that. After me, no one else, because I didn't want anyone to break my record. So, but it was a dumb thing to do. I did it in probably 11:30 in the morning, so it was calm like this. Right from Mike's mother's house, and I will say that the reason I never did it again wasn't because of the rule, was because Mike's mother tore me up one side and down the other. And she knew I was a lifeguard and she knew I could do it. She goes, I have no problem with that. She goes, but that was stupid and you should have known better. And you could have got hurt. And that was just a dumb way to go. And so because of Mrs. Liberty, I never did it again.
Did that help when it did help when she gave you the speech?
Oh, I never did it again.
At least not in front of her house.
Nope, never. Yeah, I never did. I didn't in front of anyone's house.
But most people that cross the lake that way would do it over in that section.
Yeah, because it's skinny.
Because it's more narrow than over here.
I was swimming a mile a day back then. So physically could I do it? Yes, but I can't dive down fast enough to get away from a motorboat.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Right. Speaking of that, there has been tragedy on the lake with motorboats and
Yes.
people in shells. Someone was rowing years ago. We all know that story.
I just want to interrupt you one side just to show you the eagle. He's looking at you right there up in the branch in this tree. You can see him.
Behind you.
Oh, he just went behind the branch.
Wow. That's
Turn this
amazing.
way. He's in that big pine.
Yeah, this big pine is like right in front of us.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So this is really a very exciting thing to have on here. This is also a testament to regulation because they banned DDT, and that's what actually killed off all the eagles.
But they're back.
They're coming back, yeah.
And now they need to go after the geese. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, there he is,
Because
right
you-
there. You can see him right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing to see.
Yeah, they're very cool, and you know, they soar over your house, and you can kind of see. It's really fascinating. The nature around here is as much as highly and densely developed as we are. It's just beautiful.
That's incredible.
The other cool thing they did, this island was a real problem at the time because people come out here. It's town property.
What island is it?
It's called Drake Island or Long Island. There's a bunch of different names over the years.
And what's that one?
That's Blake Island. That's private property.
So Drake and Blake?
Drake and Blake.
Okay.
And,
Twin islands.
But over there, there'd be like gas grills and parties. There was a rope swing. There was all this other stuff, and it was very hard to police, and it was just a mess. Every year when we did our cleanup for the lake, that was a big target area. Now, Mass Wildlife came in and posted it, so you can't go on it
Really?
because of the eagles.
Because of the eagles?
Right. So I don't know. You know, maybe the law of two reasons. The one that sounds good, that the eagles are there, and the real one, which is we don't want you messing up the island. But either way, it's been really, really good for the lake. So we don't have any more of those problems there.
So getting back to, I'm watching the kids in the boat.
Yep.
Getting back to, there was an accident on the lake where someone was rowing.
Yes,
and
in the 70s.
A
Yeah.
skier tried to jump the boat, and instead he hit the person in the boat and he died.
Yeah, he decapitated.
So
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't need to know that.
Yeah. Sorry.
But it was very sad. It was very sad. And
It was and unnecessary.
it seemed that for a while people took it easy on the lake, but I think the boat ramp brings people from everywhere.
Yeah, you know, it's a great pond. It's designated a great pond, which is a distinction. It's a legal distinction of a pond, and which means you have access, and it's ruled by access law. So if you have a public boat ramp on there and there's parking spaces, you can come in. And we have two on Lake Quinsigamond. We have Corazini and we have Oak Island on the southern end. And Oak Island, to further exacerbate that problem, has a Shrewsbury Park next to it, Oak Island, which has lately been an attraction for people to come in because it doesn't cost anything. It's posted no swimming, it's posted no cooking, it's posted no alcohol, but all those things are happening over there. So it's becoming.
Is it patrolled?
It's becoming a party zone. Well, the crew. I spoke with law enforcement on Sunday, and they said we were just over there this morning. I said, well, are they just ignoring you? Because there's like 30 people over there with music going on. They went back down there and they had to keep
Yeah.
People don't listen. I guess.
Somebody's wrecking their fun.
Yeah, I guess. So, but that said, beyond being on the park, which they shouldn't have been doing, but as long as those jet skis are in the water, they're not violating any rules. And it's a challenge. I mean, one of the things we'd like to see is some type of boater license, mostly for education, because that's really the problem. You see jet skis doing knucklehead things like jumping wakes or buzzing boats or going too fast under a bridge. That's because they don't know any better. And this is basically like driving in a parking lot out here. There's no lines, there's no rules of the road, and it makes it more challenging for law enforcement because even if they stop them, if you stop somebody and they don't have a license, you can say, oh, you got to get off.
Now you talked about a swimmer who
Yeah.
swims with a buoy.
Yes.
So when does that happen?
Well, he.
Never on a Sunday?
My understanding is it's during the week most of the time. It's early in the morning, and he's pretty close to shore. He swims parallel with the shore. Still a challenging thing because you can't really see. You're in a motorboat like that, and you're cruising along at a legal speed, and your bow's up in the air. You're not going to see anything lower than the bow if it's right in front of you. So you got to be careful. You got to, if you're a swimmer, you got to use common sense.
And when you're skiing, you have to have a spotter?
Oh yeah, yeah. Has to be over 12 years old.
I know that because you tell them slow down,
Up,
speed
down.
up.
Yep. Back to the dock. You know all your signals? Cut the motor. Huh?
Anyways, so now the Lake Quinsigamond Watershed Association, what are some of the issues that they have that are different than Lake Quinsigamond Commission these days? Or are they all the same?
I'm going to say that it's pretty collaborative between our groups, especially now. But they work on different projects than we work on. Like they can raise money with fundraisers and things like that, which we really can't do as a commission because we're an agency, right? So, but they're able to do that, and they'll put money into.
We just missed Sunset Beach.
The Sunset
with
Beach,
the Mulcahy's.
I know, I turned that way, but
That's where town used to have swimming lessons.
Go back there and.
I can.
I never wanted to go in the
Right,
water.
that way.
I used to stand there and shiver because I was 5 years old, and the little kids used to swim at 8:30 in the morning, and it was too cold for me. So I learned how to swim without
Okay.
without ever getting wet because I didn't want to be cold.
It was funny the other day. Someone jumped off their boat and swam over to the tower and got up and jumped off. And you know the beach isn't quite as busy as it used to be, but one of the owners came running out and said, "You can't do that." And I don't know who the person was. I just heard it from the beach that this person came up and jumped off the thing. And
well, let me tell you, when Mr. Mulcahy was alive, they would have never done that.
Yeah,
he had tight control of Sunset Beach.
Yeah, they came out pretty quick. Even that, they came running out of the house and shoot him away. But yeah, it's there. It's a really cool property. I hope it stays. I think it's the last private beach on the lake.
Yeah.
Point Rock years ago on Flint Pond, turned into condos. So that was.
I'm
it's a
realizing
task that
that there's so many more houses on the lake than what we see driving down the street because they're tucked in on little finger-type roads, and they're hidden. And what a nice place to be. I think I need a boat, and I think I need a house on the lake.
I think so.
But I recognize this just by looking at the the tower.
Yep.
Whatever happened to the big tires they used to have?
I think there's some in there. They have the big log is still there. Remember the log?
Oh, is it?
Yeah, the log's in there. Yeah. I'm sure it's a different log now, but and this is significant here too, Donna. That the underneath the Stringer Dam, which is what that little structure is right there.
Yeah.
After that, the Shrewsbury boat can't get over there. So we're that's about a third of the lake past that. That's more challenging to patrol, and we're working on that with trying to get a jet ski on the force, which we had before, and we're talking to some people who are willing to donate their boat so these guys can get over there. But even checking dock plates and stuff is a challenge. So.
It's interesting. You said this is a private beach over here.
Yep.
So many of the Mulcahy girls and their brother they all have houses.
Yeah, they do.
Right in that Old Faith Road area.
Yep, right there.
So they
I don't want to point out their houses, but
I know, but
the Mulcahy
awesome.
house, which is my favorite one.
Yeah.
On this street.
Yeah.
Is that house right there? That lake house is just gorgeous. The actual beach house.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite one.
Yeah.
But they're all over the place up there. This is nice.
And then, so we're at the far end. We're
We're at the southern end of Lake Quinsigamond proper. After Stringer Dam, it's Round Pond, and then under Route 20 you go into Flint Pond and Flag Pond.
So we're getting closer to Route 20 right now.
Yeah, Route 20 you can see it where that white house is right there. That house is basically
that house is it, huh?
That house is like 20 feet from Route 20.
Okay, we've got a lot to cover still, and I think we're going to. I have a million questions that don't even relate to the lake that we're never going to get to. But so the Eastern Point condos. Watching your meeting,
yes.
The Eastern Point condos. There were issues around their dock size and wanting to add another dock.
Yes. Yeah.
So to simplify the issue, they have a lot of people that live there and they want to have more docks, but it interferes with the Regatta. Is that what? If they put them in, they're going to interfere with the Regatta lanes?
It becomes a navigational issue that they're going to stick out past the point of where the little clubhouse is there. Which has always been a rule for them, is to kind of keep it back there. So the Regatta is certainly one thing.
So why change the rule? Why change the rule? Why not just say you can't do it?
Well, we approved a dock system there last spring by the developer. The developer came and asked us for a dock. It was an 8-slip system, and it was supposed to be not more than 40 feet from the shore. We approved that dock. When developer, it's a condo, so the developer turns over the development. They didn't pull the trigger when he was still in charge. They turn over to the condo. The condo association puts this dock in, and the dock was not the dock that we approved. That was the problem. They put a structure in that we didn't approve, so that's why they were in front of us.
So are they fixing it?
They fixed it.
Oh, they did
Within
fix
a week, yep. They pulled it back. We went down there, we inspected it. We said, this is what we're going to require. They did the work, came out nice. And then we said, if you want to add an existing structure, then you have to go through the regular rules of and I don't mind people adding docks on, especially condos, if they have the room and the space and they're not a navigational hazard.
But they shouldn't interfere.
But they should not be a navigational hazard.
So Kenny Polito had a good point.
He did, yeah.
And then this is the one. If you've ever been to Key West, and if you've ever driven to Key West, along the way, everything's mile marker this, mile marker that.
Where do you have to start from?
You have to start from Miami. You
Okay.
got to start from.
Because I drove there from West Virginia. I just want to make sure that
Oh
was
no!
fine.
You got to wait till you get down right down the beginning of the Keys.
Okay.
And he was
I
dressed
did
like that, too.
I did, yeah. All right. I'm sorry.
That's all right. So, did you have your farm clothes on when you came from West Virginia?
Nope. College close.
Oh,
Spring break.
So you were ready.
Ready.
Okay, so
Cutoffs.
they have mile markers, and someone talked about emergency 911 calls. How do you tell them where the emergency is? Why don't you just install mile markers along the lake, like Key West?
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See?
it really isn't.
If you need anyone to, look into it further, I can always go down to the Keys and see what I can get for information for you.
All right, we'll see what we got in petty cash.
Yeah.
To help you out. So, no, that's not actually a bad idea. We're trying to figure that out. We could say, okay, you're in front of this dock plate, here's the address. We have that information, actually. If you called up and I called in a dock plate, and they could say, okay, well, that's, Old Face Terrace.
Okay. So
Stolen Terrace.
I'm a resident of Shrewsbury, and I want to have access to the lake. And I don't want to go to the boat ramp because I don't have a boat. Can I just drive to the boat ramp and hang out?
There's no swimming at the boat ramps. That's a state rule.
Okay, so where is a resident? And I'm not saying we should have a town beach because that scares me with liability. Having been on the finance committee, it's like you don't have money to be, But we have this big, beautiful lake, and I live in town, and I can't access it unless I tap into one of my friends.
Yep.
Well, you can put in at the DRC if you have a boat. Like
what if I don't have a boat?
I don't know. You're making it difficult.
I know.
Well, you're asking, you say you don't want a beach, but that's what you're asking for. So
Yes.
unless we drop you in by chopper or something, but
I'm just going to have to get a boat. You keep coming
that's
back
what
to
I
that.
would do. But you can come in, and again, this may not be what you're asking either, but you can go to Regatta Point Beach, you can go to the state beach right there. So there's
That's
ways
no
to
fun.
get in there.
That's no fun.
And
But I'll tell you what was fun. If you went to the boathouse, the old boathouse,
yeah,
we used to just go swimming there. And we could just jump in.
yep, I remember that. And I don't think that was
We weren't
kosher.
supposed to.
Yeah, I don't think that was kosher then
No.
either. But
And actually it was Mother's Day weekend, and my mother told me not to get wet. Don't go in the lake, it's too cold. But I got thrown in. So I went home and said, I didn't do it on purpose,
Yeah.
I got thrown in. But it was fun, and it was worth it. It
Yeah.
was good. But we didn't get caught. So, but now if the boathouse is different, and it doesn't seem as inviting to go swimming there, is it?
no, and it's certainly against. You're not even
It's
supposed to be
against
in
the
that-
rules.
You're not supposed to be in that property.
Right.
That
But
is
that
good.
abuts where that park could go, where you could put benches and stuff. And so it's where you want to invite people to be able to sit and enjoy the lake, but you don't want them to go swimming there, but they could at least look at it.
Another place you can do that is down the farthest northern end down there at Gouge Park.
Where?
Gouge Park, the old Carrie's Bait Shop.
Carrie's Boathouse?
Yeah,
Is
Yeah.
Gouge Park? How did I never know that?
yeah. Well, because it was dedicated.
But he's at this end of the lake.
No, well, yeah, I know. Well, he sold that, so
Yeah.
but he still wanted something named after him. And but the Ron, I think it's dedicated for Ron. Or maybe it's Don. I don't remember.
It's probably both of them.
Probably both of them.
They were twins, twin brothers.
And yeah, so that's down there. So they got a whole nice place down there.
Okay, so we're going by those beautiful homes again.
Yes.
So when the Newton Pond, I want to get back to this because I can't let it go. When the Newton Pond people came into the Lake Quinsigamond Commission meeting,
Yes.
they really, really need help and guidance. And I don't know the people. I've never talked to the people. I just happened to tune in on that day when they were at the meeting. And I think they really need some real good leadership type direction. And but one of the members of the Lake Quinsigamond Commission told one of the women, and I don't think he meant it in a bad way, he said, you can always have a bake sale, because they were looking for money to figure where do you get the money to do this, and he told her to go have a bake sale. And I thought, oh my God. But what he really meant was you need to find reasonable ways to fundraise.
Yeah, and that's, I mentioned the meeting that we had with those residents. We really encourage them to form some type of association or collaborate with the Lake Quinsigamond Commission because, that's our easiest route to be able to coordinate and help them out, with the quality of the water and things like that, especially when private nonprofit groups or interest groups are able to raise some money and contribute and partner with the town, it's a lot easier for us to explain to other taxpayers there's not a disproportionate effect, that we're really enhancing a certain aspect of town. And we enhance different aspects of towns in different ways. Some people live on water, some people live near parks. And we use our recreation funds and our conservation funds in different ways, but it's a lot easier, when lake associations or other like entities are formed, because then we can work with them in a formal way, and they have one voice, and it's more coordinated.
So they should contact you.
Yeah, and we've been talking with Bob Heller and everyone else up there from Newton Pond, and I have made myself available to them as their direct contact for the town. And like I said earlier, Peter and I have been having a number of conversations. Representative Kane and I have had conversations, and we're trying to figure out how we loop Boylston in and get their support in any initiatives. And we're talking about a winter drawdown. Can we make it part of the Lake Quinsigamond Commission's permit? And what makes the sense to take some action? Because Peter toured the lake, or the pond, I certainly didn't, but it's really becoming overgrown with those invasive species.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they got a good crop going.
So there used to be a lot of clubs on the lake.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you're old enough to remember some of these,
yeah.
Like the Lakeman's Lodge,
Yeah.
Lithuanian War Veterans, the Scandinavian Club,
Yeah.
Veronis Park, Tatasset. And so there used to be all these clubs, and those were, basically they were bar rooms.
Yeah.
They had function rooms, but they were bar rooms.
Yeah.
And clubs at the same time. And
they're all over. This was the Washington Club right here.
oh wow,
Not that building, but that land.
it was a nice location.
It was.
What is it? Where are we?
That's South Quinsigamond right up there behind it. That's the Shrewsbury Boathouse.
So we're coming up on the boathouse. Okay.
Yeah.
I should just wave.
Yeah. It's a private residence now, but most
That's
of the clubs
Dickie
back then were
Quayle's
ethnic
house.
clubs.
Huh?
There were ethnic clubs.
Yes.
There was the German club, the Scandinavian club, a couple of German clubs.
And they
the
used to
Irish
have
club.
bands. So if you were at Little League games, you really wanted to be a member of those clubs because they all came in uniforms. They all came in uniforms, and they practiced and they marched at Coolidge School, and they just looked, and they had majorettes and everybody, and it was just so impressive to see. And they all came from those clubs.
Yeah.
But I never got old enough to be a member of or in any of their bands, nor did I ever play any music. I don't know, but did you?
No, I didn't. I'm trying to think. The Scandinavian Club was going until fairly recently. It's probably been 15, 20 years because the Knights bought their facility, which the Knights just sold. And then
Say that again?
The Knights just sold their facility that was over here. Yeah.
They sold it.
Yeah.
And they had a fishing derby,
Yeah.
didn't they?
They're still there, actually. I think they're leasing it out or something. Some arrangement that the Knights still have.
And who bought it?
I'm not sure the person's name. I know they're turning it into a club. It's the Great
Catering Center, right?
East. What's that?
Struck Catering?
Yeah, Struck
Oh,
Catering.
Struck
So it's
Catering.
the Eastern Shore Club, I think they're calling it.
And so,
they just had like a wake or funeral there or something.
oh, but so Eastern Shore Club was the Knights of Columbus, and before that it was SAC.
It was, no, not SAC. It was I'm sorry, not Scandinavian. I said the Lithuanian Club. Sorry.
Was it the Lithuanian
It's
Club?
the Lithuanian Club, yeah.
Okay.
And that's the original building too, which is cool. That building was the original building. That was
Really?
there.
So
Yep.
it was well made
Yes. Yeah.
to be around for this many
Yeah.
years. We renovate schools, knock it down, build a new one. Knock down Glavin Center, build a new one. But the Lithuanian Club still stands.
It's still there. Yeah.
In
I
Moronis
don't know if they
Park.
considered that for a school or not, but that would have been nice.
We only have 2 minutes. Moronis Park.
Rose Park is still there. It's still a club. So that's still going. Yeah.
Okay.
It's right there. That's their land right
Coming
there.
up on it.
Yep.
And now the Regatta, Mother's Day weekend.
Yes. Which one?
The big regatta is
Yep.
Mother's Day weekend. And now it seems even bigger. But there used to be fights. Do you know that people used to come to the regatta just to have a fight? But they straightened that out, and that doesn't happen
Yeah.
anymore. It's actually a main event. It's a big event.
The fight or the
No, the fights are gone.
The Eastern Sprint.
Gone.
It's a big race, and you know Lake Quinsigamond's a world-class rowing venue, so we're proud of that. We do everything we can to to foster that, keep it going.
Now we only have about a minute, so is there anything that you want to add?
No, I mean I will say this, that I'm thankful, and I'm not I don't want to get mushy, but I'm thankful for Kevin's work and what the town has supported us. You know, when you look at these guys, it's more than just the money. They give us space to meet. We have a secretary that's part of the town that helps us, and it's integrated in with the town hall, which is really good. It's very informative. They help us do when we get our permits and go out for bids and stuff like that. They're right there. So it's way more support than just the money. The money's really important to us, and we're happy that they do that. But we're really grateful for that.
Do you have anything you'd like to add?
I do. I just want to thank Mr. Mike Liberty for
Yes.
the boat ride this
Yeah.
afternoon.
I
It's
have to
always
have
a
another
pleasure.
excuse to
Yeah.
come on this boat.
Yeah.
This was awesome. Thank you, Michael. This has been a pleasure. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time while we cruise Lake Quinsigamond.